How to know you've defeated a narcissist. There comes a point in every battle when the dust settles. The noise stops, the smoke clears, and you're standing, bloody but breathing, broken but not defeated. You've fought the war of your life, not just against a person, but against a destructive force that tried to steal your mind, your identity, your worth. That force is narcissism, and it is cunning, manipulative, and designed to make you forget who you are. But you, yes, you have risen, and if you're asking, how do I know I've defeated the narcissist? Then you're already on the edge of your breakthrough. This isn't just about walking away. It's about rising above. It's about reclaiming what they tried to bury, your soul, your voice, your truth. Today, I'm giving you 6 undeniable signs that you've conquered what once had power over you, not in silence, not in shame, but in roaring, unshakable victory. You no longer seek their validation. There was a time you'd contort yourself into shapes just to hear a good job from them. One glance, one nod, one half mile from the narcissist, and you felt alive for a moment. But it never lasted, did it? Their approval was a moving target, and you were the arrow that never landed. You gave, they took. You cried, they shrugged. But somewhere along the way, something in you broke open. And it wasn't your weakness. It was your illusion. You woke up, and when you did, you began to see that their validation was the counterfeit version of the real thing, self, worth. You started asking different questions. Not, why don't they love me? But why do I need their love to feel enough? That shift right there was the spark. That's when you began taking your power back, and it didn't happen in a day. It came in whispers at first. You stopped replying immediately to their texts. You said, I'm busy, and actually meant it. You wore what you wanted, said what you meant, did what lit you up. You noticed the sky again. The music in your car made you smile again. Their voice in your head started to go quiet when they threw out their old hooks. Guilt, compliments, jealousy. You didn't bite. You finally saw the bait. You finally saw that their praise was just another leash. And you weren't a pet anymore. You were becoming a person again, your own person. You stopped performing for their applause. You stopped spinning in circles hoping they'd notice. You stopped trying to be impressive. You became real, raw, whole, and you realized something powerful. Their opinion doesn't shape your value. It never did. You just thought it did because they trained you to believe that. They gave you crumbs and you used to call it a feast, but now you cook your own meals, you nourish your own soul. You look in the mirror and you don't need anyone to say you matter, because you say it first. You believe it first, and yes, they noticed. Oh, they felt the shift. The narcissist felt their control slipping like water through a clenched fist. They tried to up the ante, more drama, more manipulation. But this time you didn't bite, you didn't flinch, because they couldn't touch the part of you that was rising, that moment, when their silence no longer scared you, when their praise no longer thrilled you. That's the moment you knew. You were winning. You weren't just surviving. You were evolving. You stopped needing to be seen by the person who refused to see you. You started seeing yourself, and what you saw was strength. What you saw was resilience. What you saw was a soul that had been tested in fire and didn't burn up. It forged steel. And now, you don't wait for them to call. You don't hope they'll notice. You don't check who's watching your story or liking your post. You've moved beyond the superficial. You've stepped into authenticity, and they can't follow you there, because where you are now is sacred. Where you are now is whole. You finally realized you don't need them to say you're good enough. You say it every morning when you open your eyes. Every time you take a breath and choose you. There is no applause louder than the one that comes from your own soul. And guess what? Your standing ovation. Worthy. Because validation from the outside is temporary. But the inner knowing you've built, that's eternal. You didn't lose their validation. You let it go. You freed yourself from the trap. And in doing so, you became something they could never be complete. You set boundaries. And you enforce them. There's a difference between talking about boundaries and actually living them. Saying, I need space, is one thing. Refusing to answer that 2 a.m. hidden text is another. You see, narcissists hate boundaries. They see them as obstacles to control, and they know how to test them over and over until you cave. But this time you didn't, because this time something inside of you remembered who you were before the manipulation. This time you weren't afraid of their tantrums, their threats, their cold silence. You didn't fall into the trap of explaining, defending, or apologizing for your limits. You just drew the line and held it. They tried pushing back. Oh, they always do. The moment you start standing up for yourself, they act like you're betraying them. But you didn't buy it. You realize the truth. A boundary is not a betrayal. It's self-respect in action. And for the first time, you watched yourself say no, without flinching. You didn't feel guilt. You didn't feel fear. You felt powerful. You felt grounded. You felt like you were finally living by your own code, not theirs. They used to manipulate you with chaos. Now you meet their drama with calm. They used to throw emotional grenades. Now you simply walk away. They used to test your limits. Now you're unshakable. Why? Because your boundaries are no longer negotiable. You stopped just talking about self-love. You started demonstrating it with every decision. Every time you said, "That doesn't work for me," you reinforced your worth. Every time you didn't explain yourself, you reclaimed another piece of your power. And when they said, "You've changed," they were right. You did. You evolved from codependent to courageous, from people pleaser to peacekeeper, from emotionally enslaved to emotionally sovereign. They couldn't reach you anymore. Their tricks bounced off you like rubber bullets. Their sulking, their blaming, their victimhood, none of it had the old effect. You saw the game for what it was, and you stopped playing, because you finally understood. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're gates that decide who gets the privilege to stay, and the narcissist, they lost that privilege the moment they disrespected your line. You no longer feel like you're mean for saying no. You feel like you're wise. You no longer fear abandonment. You fear self-betrayal, and that shift right there is when everything changed. You used to need their permission to breathe. Now you inhale peace and exhale guilt. You don't just survive anymore. You lead. You lead your life with clarity, with firmness, with integrity. That is what true victory looks like, and it terrifies them. Because for the first time, they're facing someone they can't manipulate, someone they can't intimidate, someone who knows exactly where they stand and refuses to move. And that someone is you. Their manipulation tactics no longer work. There was a time when their words felt like spells, twisting reality, making you doubt what you saw, what you felt, even what you knew. They'd gaslight you into confusion, guilt, trip you into submission and love, bomb you into silence. They were artists of distortion, and you were the canvas they painted their control onto. But the paint has dried. The brush has broken. You've become unpaintable. Their tactics, the same old lies dressed in new costumes, don't touch you anymore because now you recognize the pattern. You see through the fog and you walk in truth. They try to guilt you, but your heart doesn't flinch. They try to love, bomb you, but you don't melt. They try to act like the victim, but you don't rescue them anymore. You've upgraded from manipulated to masterful, from reactive to resolved. You used to question yourself. Now you question them. Every time they pull a trick, you name it, you label it, you detach. Their manipulation tactics used to be weapons. Now they're just noise, background static in the soundtrack of your freedom. And that shift didn't come from rage. It came from clarity. It came from studying the battlefield and realizing the war was psychological. You weren't crazy. You were being conditioned. But now the spell is broken. They text you with those same empty lines. "I miss you. No one understands me like you. Can we just talk?" You used to run to those messages like lifelines. Now you see them for what they are, chains. Chains you've shattered. When they provoke you, they expect the old you. The emotional one, the apologetic one, the one who could be baited with blame. But instead, they meet silence, calm, or better yet, nothing at all. That silence, that's the sound of you not playing anymore. You don't explain, you don't defend, you don't engage, because every time you step back, you reclaim energy. Every time you say nothing, you say everything. You're not reacting because they no longer define your reality. They used to twist stories so well, you'd believe you were the problem. But now you trust your gut more than their words. You see the contradictions. You recognize the cycles. You no longer try to fix what was designed to confuse you. You've stopped asking why they lie, why they twist, why they pretend. You've realized the answer is simple. Manipulation is all they have. But manipulation only works on those who don't yet see it. And you, my friend, you see everything now. You're awake, you're aware. And awareness is the end of manipulation, because you can't be controlled by something you fully understand. That's your superpower now. You don't need to fight them. You've simply outgrown them. This isn't about winning an argument. This is about ending the game. And the moment you stopped dancing to their rhythm, the game collapsed. You didn't scream, you didn't rage, you just disconnected. And that was louder than any confrontation. That's how you know you've defeated the narcissist. They're still playing a game, but you've walked off the board. You're not a pawn anymore. You're the architect of your own peace. And peace is the one thing they can never fake or take. You feel peace without their presence at first. Silence was terrifying. You'd gotten so used to their chaos, their drama, their noise, that when they were gone, it felt like something was missing. But that something was addiction, not connection. What you missed wasn't love. It was trauma masquerading as love. But then, something beautiful started happening. The longer they stayed away, the more your nervous system began to calm. You slept deeper. You smiled more. You had moments where your chest didn't feel tight. That wasn't coincidence, that was peace. Peace is subtle at first. It doesn't knock on the door like drama does. It whispers. It creeps in slowly. But once it gets a foothold in your life, it begins to grow like light through a cracked window. And you started to notice it in the small things. You woke up one morning and didn't feel dread. You went through a whole day without checking your phone obsessively. You made decisions without hearing their voice in your head. That's not just recovery. That's resurrection. Their absence used to be a void. Now it's a blessing. You no longer feel haunted. You feel free. You used to walk on eggshells. Now you walk on solid ground. You used to brace for impact. Now you embrace your own impact. The storms they brought used to feel normal. Now even a ripple feels foreign. You don't miss the drama. You don't crave the roller coaster. You crave simplicity, stillness, and guess what? That craving is healthy. That craving is sacred. They were your addiction, but you've detoxed, and it shows in your skin, in your eyes, in your voice. In your energy, you're radiating peace now, and they can't stand it, because their chaos doesn't live in your house anymore. You've redecorated your soul, you've swept out the lies, you've burned the bridge. And on the ashes, you've built peace, a kind of peace they'll never understand because it doesn't come from control. It comes from letting go. Your peace is loud, louder than any argument, louder than any accusation. You don't need to prove your peace. You are the proof. You walk it. You live it. You breathe it. And that peace, it's contagious. The people around you feel it. Your friends see it. Strangers notice it. You've gone from reactive to rooted, from anxious to anchored. You are becoming unshakable. The narcissist may try to return. They may try to pull you back into the cycle, but it won't work because you've tasted peace. And once you do, chaos has no flavor anymore. Drama feels hollow. Manipulation feels ridiculous. You've stopped running toward their fire. You've built a sanctuary in yourself, and that sanctuary is guarded by the peace they try to destroy. You don't live for their love anymore. You live for your freedom, and when you sit alone in silence and smile, that's how you know you've defeated them, not by fighting, but by finally resting. Let me know when you're ready for the final two. Listen to me. This journey you've been on is nothing short of a transformation. You've walked through fire, faced down manipulation, shattered illusions, and reclaimed the throne of your own life. You've gone from being a player in their game to becoming the master of your destiny. That is no small feat. You've broken free from needing their approval. You've built unbreakable boundaries. You've seen their tricks and refused to be fooled. And you've discovered the peace that only comes when you stop running and start standing. You've stopped being the hero in their toxic story and stepped into your own. You don't hate them anymore because you're beyond it. You're indifferent, unshakable, and unstoppable. And now the most important truth of all. Your power is not dependent on defeating someone else. Your power was inside you all along. You only had to remember who you were before their lies, before their control, before their games. You had to choose yourself over their chaos. So stand tall, stand proud. Let the world see the warrior who refused to be broken, the survivor who chose peace over pain, the champion who refuses to be anyone's victim again. This is your victory, not because you beat the narcissist, but because you reclaimed your life. You are powerful beyond measure, you are free beyond belief, and the future it's yours to write. Without fear, without apology, and without anyone else's shadow dimming your light. Now go out there and live it. Live loud, live proud, and never forget. You are the one who wins every single time.